Hey guys, going to be doing a review today on this Cub Cadet XT2 GX54. The purpose of this video is to hopefully help out anybody in the market for a new tractor. When I purchased this machine almost exactly 2 years ago in the fall of 2016, there wasn't a lot of video reviews on this particular model available. And doing some research lately, it doesn't appear as though many have been made since then. So I think it's a great product. Basically want to highlight why I ultimately ended up going with this product versus some of the other tractors out there in a similar price point. So about 2 years rather, and approximately 50 hours later on the machine, I am happy I went with it. I think it was a good purchase, and I'll go over some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like about it. Now, just as a disclaimer, right now it is September of 2018, and if you're in the market and you're looking at the different manufacturers' websites, you'll see that the current model for this particular lineup would be the XT2 GX54D. So it's essentially the same machine with an upgraded transmission, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Start off with just a quick walk around tractor. Again, this is the Cub Cadet XT2 GX54. Some of the features you'll find on this model are the 22-inch tires, which were important for me because I have a hilly property that replacing an old Agway mower with a 38-inch deck and had much smaller wheels, and I'd often lose traction, and that is simply not an issue with this machine for what I'm using it for. And for those of you replacing older machines like I was, I think no matter what product you go with, you're going to find that these new tractors are much more comfortable. I have a really nice seat here with armrests, and we'll go over some of the product differentiation between the XT1 line and XT2 in a moment. This does have a fabricated 54-inch deck. Quick look at the dashboard. You'll find your hour reader here, which is digital. This little triangular warning light allows you to mow in reverse. It has a push button start with this key. You just hold the brake and push in. This is your electronic PTO to engage your mower or snowblower, what have you. Your parking brake and cruise control here. Here is your throttle. It does have the auto choke, so you do not need to make any adjustments on the choke. Your fuel cap. The front of the machine. Now I should note the XT2s do come with a front brush guard. I have my snowplow mount on it. I just leave it on year round. So pop the hood quick for you. This machine has the 26 horsepower Kohler, which I've had no problems with. Very easy to work on. Your air filter is located under that cover here. Squeeze through the other side. Your filter is very accessible. Your oil filter. Your drain plug for your oil hides away nicely here, and it makes for changing the oil very easy. It's very accessible when the time comes. I should note I am not a mechanic or a small engine mechanic. I do try to do as much basic maintenance as possible, whether it's oil changes, deck maintenance, things like that. Now, for my property, which is about 1.5 acres, it is hilly. It is not a perfect lawn by any means. There are divots, there are dips and bumps and things like that. For me, traction, as I mentioned, is important. And one thing that you're going to get on the new model, which is the GX54D, is an upgraded transmission, which is the K62, the Tough Torque K62 transmission that does have a diff lock. And on Tough Torque's website, that is going to allow you to get into some heavier duty ground engagement type chores. One of the reasons why I purchased this machine is because it does have the K58, which is in the same lineup in Tough Torque's product line in the residential series, but it is an upgrade over the standard K46 transmission. And for those of you that are doing research on any tractor, I'm sure you're going to find that one of the shortcomings with the lower end models is the transmission. And I can't speak to you know, folks that have nice tight flat lawns. Mine certainly is not that. And I think the K46 may do you well enough if you have smaller property that does not have the hills that I do. But getting a K46 for me in some of the lower end machines was a concern. And for this price point, the K58, albeit may not be a huge upgrade, but I think it should hold up over time. And in research I've done and my experience with this machine, my transmission certainly has no signs of slowing down. So with that said, we'll go over some of the features on the XT2 that's separated from the XT1. As I mentioned, this machine does have the armrests, which is maybe not a huge game changer for some of you, but it is a really nice comfort feature that does come equipped on the XT2s. It is available as a kit on the XT1s for I think about $90. The tires, again, these are 22-inch tires in the rear, and there are XT1 models available with 22-inch tires. However, these are more aggressive tires. The XT1 is going to come with your turf saver versus the XT2 on this multi-track. And if you guys go on the Cub Cadet website, you can look at the XT1 versus the XT2, and you can see the difference in the tread. These tires are pretty meaty. I don't know if this video is really going to capture how meaty these tires are, but if you see these in person, these are pretty meaty tires. There's pretty good tread on there, and I get good traction with them, especially being that they're a little bigger. Also upgraded on the XT2 versus the XT1 is the battery located under the seat. The XT2 has a 300 cold crank amp battery versus a 230 cold crank amp battery on the XT1. I'm located in the Northeast. This machine does run year-round. As I mentioned, I do plow snow with it, and this has never failed to start for me. And we're talking single degree, sometimes negative degrees, and that for me was important. Some of the other machines out there, John Deere in particular, I know in the same kind of product range will get you a slightly higher cold crank amp battery. However, I think when you look at the totality of the features available on this versus the John Deere in particular, this has a lot of value packed in it, and we'll get into that. And I'm certainly not bashing John Deere. As a matter of fact, I think for my next machine years down the road, I might look at the X500 or X700 series to get into some more heavy duty type of work. But I think for the price, this Cub Cadet is a really good bargain, and it packs a lot in for the money. There's a quick look at the machine with the LED lights, which does come standard on the entire Cub Cadet Enduro series. Another differentiating factor on the XT2 is you do get a heavier duty brush guard on the front end, which, as I mentioned, I do not have equipped, but it does come standard. Just check out the Cub Cadet website and you'll see that displayed. The XT1 model comes with just a single tube bumper. So those are the different features available on the XT2 versus the XT1. And for me, the price difference between those models is approximately $300. And for me, just getting the armrests, the battery, and the tires makes that worth it for what I'm using my machine for. Those may or may not be features important to you. The deck is a really heavy-duty deck. It's a fabricated versus a stamped deck. It is warranted for life on the deck shell, which is good. The remainder of the warranty, bumper to bumper, is a 3-year unlimited hour warranty, which is pretty good. I still have about a year left on mine. I'll definitely hit the time mark before I hit the hour mark. One thing to keep in mind when purchasing a tractor, let's be honest, something of this caliber is going to be used primarily for mowing, and that is what I use mine for primarily. As I mentioned, I do plow snow with it. I do tow a dump cart, and that will have logs, it will have rocks, mulch, dirt, weeds, other heavy loads, giggity as well. But the machine's primarily used for mowing. This machine does a great job. It's a 3-blade deck. The 26 horsepower Kohler does a great job. Tall grass, whatever you throw at it, it's going to chop it up. It's going to give you a nice cut. But something to keep in mind, as I mentioned, with these bigger decks, I'm coming from a 38-inch deck, and with the amount of property I have, this cuts way down on my mowing time. And just the comfort and the speed of the machine overall, it's just a much more pleasurable experience. However, depending on the layout and the terrain of your property, a larger deck may not necessarily be a better option for you. I would argue if you have a smaller, bumpier property, a smaller deck is going to give you a better cut. It's going to contour around your imperfections better than some of these larger decks will. So just something to keep in mind when you're making a purchase. And kind of what I want to conclude with is why ultimately I bought this machine and not the others. I was looking primarily at Cub Cadets, Husqvarnas, and John Deere's. Just in terms of proximity to my house, Cub Cadet and John Deere dealers were closer. And I say dealers because the XT2 line, the XT2 line, is not available at your Home Depot or your Lowe's, your big box stores. They have to be purchased solely through a authorized Cub Cadet dealer. Same thing with your John Deere X300 series and up, Husqvarna and others. So why I purchased this machine, bang for the buck. I think what you're going to get for this price point, which when I bought it new was $3,300, I thought that was a good bargain. It had the features I wanted, and to get the same features with green paint is going to cost you substantially more. Again, if you were to walk out and purchase this today, you would actually be purchasing a slightly upgraded version, which is the K62 transmission, which has your locking rear differential. For those of you that don't know, that means you're going to get traction in both wheels at the same time for low traction situations, and that can be activated via a foot pedal. So that's definitely a nice upgrade. That model runs $36.99, and we'll go over some of the features on that versus, say, a John Deere for the same price, $36.99. So a John Deere X350, which is again a machine available only through the dealer, is going to run you the same price as the GX54D. With that, in the John Deere, you're going to get a 340 cold crank amp battery versus a 300 cold crank amp battery in the GX54D. So there is a point for the John Deere. However, when you look at the other features, I would argue they're all in Cub Cadet's favor from here on out, and some of them, in my opinion, are pretty significant. You will get the 18.2 0.5 horsepower Kawasaki motor in the John Deere versus the 26 horsepower Kohler, and I guess that's a matter of preference. I think both of them are capable engines. I've had no problems with mine. I can't speak to the Kawasaki, but they do have a good reputation as well, both of those being air-cooled. You will get the LED headlights in the Cub Cadet versus the standard incandescent bulb in the John Deere. Not a huge factor, but it is something that made a difference to me in my purchase. The biggest feature to me all day long is going to be the upgraded transmission in the Cub Cadet, which is a K62, as I've mentioned, with the locking rear diff, versus the standard K46 in the John Deere for that price point. And to me, that's, boy, and I hate to be super critical, but that's not acceptable. You're putting the same machine, or the same transmission rather, in an authorized dealer-only upgraded X300 mower that has the same transmission as you're going to get in a bare bones big box store machine. And to me, that's a major downfall. And if you actually look at Tough Torque's website, that transmission is only rated to have a 20-inch tire. Versus the K58 in this particular machine, or the K62, which is available in the GX54D, which is rated to have at least the proper size tire that these machines are equipped with. So that to me is a major point for the Cub Cadet versus the John Deere. Also, at this price point, the X350 is going to come with a 20-inch rear tire. Which to me, you know, that's a game changer. That's something that's really going to help with your traction, especially when you couple that with the diff lock on the GX54D. You're getting a better transmission, you're getting better tires, you're going to get more traction. And maybe that's not a major component for everybody who has a flat lawn, but to me, that's a major advantage for the Cub Cadet. They're both going to have 16-inch turning radiuses, and again, at that $35.99 price point with the X350, you're going to get a 48-inch stamp deck versus the 54-inch fab deck. So for those of you that have larger properties, that 54-inch deck is going to make a difference. It is a heavier duty deck as well, being fabricated, and there is that nice warranty on it. And just speaking of warranties, the John Deere will give you a 4-year, 300-hour bumper-to-bumper warranty versus the Cub Cadet, which will give you a 3-year unlimited hour. So however you slice that up, pretty comparable, and you could make an argument for either there. But to me, you're getting better tires with the Cub Cadet. You're getting a significantly better transaxle. And again, guys, doing your research, you're going to find that the transaxles are where people run into issues. They're not serviceable on either of those particular transmissions, but your K58 or K62 should hold up better, especially if you have hills. You will get a better battery with the John Deere, and in my opinion, that's about it. You're paying a lot for green paint, which again, I'm not knocking John Deere. They do make a good product. If you were to spec out the same features I just listed on a John Deere model, you'd be looking at a $4,400 X380, which is a price difference of $800. So you're going to pay $800 more to get the 22-inch wheels, to get the same size deck, to get the upgraded transmission. I mean, for my money, I can't justify that. This Cub Cadet for me has been good. I have no regrets in purchasing it. It's done everything I've asked it to do. What have I asked it to do? Well, I ask it to mow the lawn. I ask it to pull my dump cart. I ask it to I ask it to plow snow up to 6-7 inches. And that's what it's designed for, folks. It's not a heavy duty drive shaft driven machine. It's not going to plow a foot of snow. It's not going to have features like a front loader available or anything like that that you're going to get on the higher end machines. Doesn't have four-wheel drive, so on and so forth. But for the price point, I'm very happy with it. Just a few things I think they could have done a better job on. Your steering has a little bit of play in it, and even brand new from the factory, it does have a little bit of play in it. But if you look at other machines, even up to the John Deere X500 series with the rack and pinion that they have in these, you will get a little bit of play with it. However, the wheel is true and straight. I've never had any issues with it. It goes exactly where you want it. Other things that may be considered a negative, the hood material is plastic, and that's again the same kind of material you're going to find on almost any machine nowadays, right up until, you know, the subcompact compact tractors that are $10,000 more than this. Do I find it to be a disadvantage? Not so much personally. It's held up really well for me, and again, that's driving it in hot summer days, in blistering cold days. For me personally, and if I get up close, you may or may not be able to see, there are some scratches on this hood, some slight scratches. It still looks really good and sharp and clean. But for my money, I would much rather have some scratches in the plastic paint than scratches in a metal hood that's ultimately going to rust. One thing you're not going to have with plastic is rust, and I've found that this material does hold up well. Some of you may fight me tooth and nail on that, and that's certainly your opinion, but as far as fuel consumption, I've found it to be right where I've expected it to be. Really no concerns there. Had no maintenance issues with this machine at all whatsoever. The deck is fairly easy to remove. It's 3 cotter pins. It's what you're going to get really at this price point. Some of the drive over systems and the more expensive machines are definitely a nice perk, but this is still pretty easy to work with. So I think that covers it, guys, as far as what I wanted to talk about. This thing climbs like a billy goat, does what I want it to do. I'm happy with the purchase. Again, I'm not knocking John Deere or any other manufacturers, but I did find, for my money, for this price point, this was a great machine, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope it's been helpful to you. Take care.